So here are Jack's two books. Excuse me. The Secret of the Haunted House and Mystery of the Lost Will.
Yeah.
And let's see, they're both coming out in February. A little bit of a stretch, but we're going to make it happen. And
Why is that a stretch?
I'm just not on the ball right now, so I kind of don't have everything out that I need to have out by now.
Yeah.
It's been one of those years, you know. And, so Secret of the Haunted House is one Jack sent me in, what, 2003 or something
Right,
like that?
right.
And then, so I'll let you tell the story of that, of what happened with that one.
Oh, Carol, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
I just turned my video off. I'm sorry. You want me to put it on? I mean,
It doesn't matter.
okay.
Yeah, I like seeing who I'm talking to.
Well, I'll put it on.
Yeah.
I put on my grubby t-shirt, but that's okay.
Oh, that's all
Yeah,
right.
we're okay.
No, I sent out the Secret of the Haunted House to a whole bunch of publishers, and I got two offers the same weekend. One of them was Crimson Dragon, and the other one was a little publisher in Texas. And when Dawn sent, this is back in the days when you actually signed a physical contract, you know, and she sent it, and it had like 4 cents postage due.
Yeah.
And it was the weekend of the 4th of July. 4th of July, I think, was on a Monday. And so, or Friday, it was on a Friday. But anyway, it came in that weekend. And so I got the contract from, and the little pink slip from the post office saying I had something with 4 cents postage due. And I didn't recognize the return address, so I didn't know it was from a publisher. So I spent the weekend thinking about the contract from, and I thought, bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So I'm going to sign it. So I wanted to make sure that the contract got back. So I went down to the post office to insure it and get the hand receipt that it had arrived. Then I paid the 4 cents postage due, and here's another contract from Crimson Dragon, you know. And I'm like, crap, you know, I've already signed that contract. I can't back out of it. And when I had first sent in the complete manuscript to Dawn, she'd given it to her granddaughter, who loved the book. And I think that's what convinced her to offer me a contract.
Yeah.
Well, didn't do anything to promote it. I had to do all the promoting. And once I ran out of family and friends, sales plummeted. So after a couple of years, I got the contract, I got the rights back to it. And so I self-published it, which, by the way, I need help taking off of Amazon.
Okay, well, we'll work on that, yeah.
And it's because I can't log in to KDP.
Oh, that's right. They changed everything around. Okay, well, sorry.
Yeah,
We'll see if we can figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, so sales didn't go very well. And I thought, well, I'll just try and, then I wrote the second book, the Lost Will. And I sent that in to Dawn thinking, and I said, you had liked my first book. Here's another one that, you know, would you mind taking a look at it and see if you want that? And she said, yeah. And so she wanted to do two of them, both of them. The Haunted House is a reprint, and with a new cover, because actually still own the rights to the cover since they designed it. But anyway, that's how one's a reprint. The other one is a new
Yeah.
a new one. And it's based on an old Nancy Drew mystery. Yeah. Because I remember growing up, I loved the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy mysteries. And when I taught junior high, I noticed that's where we lost the boys to reading. And I figured that I noticed that it was not because they didn't like to read, because when they were in elementary school, they were avid readers. But when they hit junior high, middle school grades, that's when they all of a sudden didn't like to read anymore, because most of the literature for that age group seems to be aimed at girls. That's when girls are becoming social creatures, friends and enemies, frenemies. And boys are not. They don't become the social creatures until high school. And in junior high, they still like adventure, action, blood and guts, they could care less about boy-girl relationships or buddy-buddy relationships. They just want the action. And so that's the reason I wrote Secret of the Haunted, or the Lost Will, Mystery of the Lost Will, was because it's like an old-fashioned Nancy Drew story, and hopefully they're confused, or they can't figure out the whole story until they get to the end. So the mystery part of it keeps them intrigued and into reading. So that's how that was my purpose in writing it.
And there is danger involved in the books too. I mean, it doesn't shy away from danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no death. That's what keeps it
Yep.
young adult, middle grade, is that it's not gory.
Yeah. Oh, I think Carol might have froze there. I think.
Did I?
Oh, okay.
No.
Maybe you're just sitting so still. I couldn't tell.
I usually don't sit still, so that's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
Was that your first book, Jack? Or?
The Haunted House. Yeah, that was the first book. That's the one that's being republished.
Yeah.
And then the Lost Will is my second book, and I'm working on a third one with the same two characters.
Okay.
It's also based on a Hardy Boys mystery. What I've done is I've taken the basic plot, the basic conflict, but modernized it. Rather than being from the 1930s, it's in the 21st century. I gave the main characters laptops, cell phones, video games. The only thing that is, and I set the setting in the area around where I live in New Mexico, and but the action, the mystery that they've got to solve is the same. And then I also gave them a secondary character, a friend, who's Navajo, because I'm right on the edge of the Navajo reservation.
That's good.
And because the two main characters have recently moved from Houston, Navajo culture is new to them. So as they explore and learn about Navajo culture, the readers, these young kids that are reading it, are also going to learn a little bit of Navajo culture.
So when you write it to base it on a story like that, are you promoting it that way, or you're just using it so loosely that it's not?
Oh yeah, it's
not
original as West Side Story is from Romeo and Juliet.
Okay, so it's just yeah.
It's just a basic plot, But
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
the
one of those
character,
that if, it's, we can sell it more as if you grew up with Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew, your
You'll like.
kids,
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
like
yeah,
these books, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. If you remember,
Yeah.
it's more of a comparable rather than the story itself. Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
because the Nancy Drew, the main characters are two brothers. Um, and of course the setting is different, and the dialogue, the actual text is
Yeah.
way, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing Jack actually did really well is what I remember reading the Hardy Boys, I could never tell the two brothers apart in the books. So he actually they have very distinct personalities
right,
and they play off of each other really well.
yeah.
That's good. That's great.
And actually their names, the names of all the characters are actually people that I know. And a lot of their personality is based on the real character. So it was easy to develop, give them a three-dimensional, in-depth personality, characterization. Um, and some of the shenanigans that they pull, and also in the first book, um, are stuff that I did with my brothers and sister, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. The snipe hunt, I think that's a pretty good one.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I was amazed though at how many people in this area did not know what a snipe was, what a snipe hunt is.
But it's nice. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah. And my dad did that with Jerry, Frank, and I, or the three of us, are within 1 year of each other
Oh,
in age. And he took us out when we were in junior high out in the field, back pasture, and left us there. It was about 3 in the morning. We finally dawned on us that he had pulled a fast one on us. So I
Your
put,
dad did that. That's great.
yeah, and it was my own dad.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, the relationship in the lost will between the two brothers uh, was very much the relationship between me and my two younger brothers. Being the oldest, I was the bossiest. I was the boss.
Yeah.
And in fact, Jerry's birthday is only 4 days earlier than mine. And I can remember being little when he was, for that 4 days, we were the same age, number wise. And he would always tell me on his birthday, says, I'm just as old as you are and you can't boss me around anymore. Until until my birthday, and I was a year older again.
yeah.
And we kept that up even as adults when we called each other to wish each other happy birthday. Well, on his birthday, he would call and say, you can't boss me around anymore. We're the same age.
oh.
So
Do you want to read a little bit from either of the books, Jack? Or
Kenny and James are, Kenny is the third child, but he's the smartest. He's in the gifted program. And James is the youngest one, and he's so honest. He always gets himself into trouble. Wake up, Kenny, it's time. Kenny opened his eyes to see James standing over him, gently shaking him awake. The room was dark except where the bright moonlight flooded in through the open blinds. Kenny reached under his pillow for his glasses and put them on. He jumped out of bed and started putting on his shoes. He was already wearing his t-shirts, shorts, and socks. He was so excited about taking his brothers and sister on a snipe hunt that he had gone to bed with them on. James had gone to bed wearing all of his clothes, even his shoes. They tiptoed quietly down to Mike and Katie's rooms. Kenny gently knocked on their doors. Almost immediately, the two older Bassett kids appeared outside their bedrooms. Kenny was surprised at how fast they'd gotten ready. Evidently, they were as eager to go on the snipe hunt as James was. Creeping as quietly as they could, the four kids went into the kitchen where Kenny took a large pan and a wooden spoon from the drain rack of clean dishes and silently led the others out the back door. Once outside, they ran over to Mrs. Sosie's trailer to retrieve the stuff for the hunt from her woodpile. Mrs. Sosie didn't want Kenny waking her up in the wee hours of the night just to retrieve them, and Kenny didn't want his mom to find them in the trailer and forbid the hunt. So when Mrs. Sosie had offered to loan him 3 sacks and a pair of horseshoes, he had taken them and hidden them in her woodpile. In this way, both his neighbor and his mom could get a good night's sleep. He figured that what his mom didn't know wouldn't bother her. Kenny led his siblings to the middle of the dirt road separating his home from the burned down house and stopped for a moment. There, he glanced up at the full moon shining down on them. It was bright enough to light their way around the rubble of the ruins as they walked to the back side of the Hampton property. Behind the ruins was a thin line of trees. It originally had marked the boundary between Mrs. Hampton's property and the large open pasture belonging to her backyard neighbor. Now the tree line was overgrown with bushes and tall weeds. After her death, no one had bothered to keep Mrs. Hampton's yard mown and cleaned up. The result was an almost solid wall of weeds, bushes, and trees separating the pasture from the backyard of the burned down house. Kenny led his siblings to the line of bushes and trees. One of you should stay right here. This is a good place for snipe. James, Mike, and Katie looked at each other. Okay, I'll say, said Katie after a moment. What do I do? Sit here in the bushes out of sight and bang this wooden spoon against this pan, said Kenny, handing her the utensils she had just washed from that evening's supper. And keep calling, here, snipe, as you bang on the pan. When one gets close enough, reach out and grab it and put it in your sack. Katie nodded her head, understanding. She found a nice, comfortable spot by a large bush. She raked a bunch of fallen leaves into a pile, sat down on her nest, and began to call softly, here, snipe, while banging on her pan. Kenny smiled to himself and led his two brothers through the trees into the open pasture beyond. On the other side of the line of overgrown vegetation, Kenny put James with his sack far enough away that he couldn't hear his sister calling for snipe. He told his little brother he wanted enough distance between them that they would not be competing for the same birds. As he and Mike left James, they could hear him squeezing the air from under his armpit, making a farting sound and whistling like he was calling Ginger Snap to come play. Here, Snipey, he said softly between whistles. Several dozen yards further into the pasture, Kenny stopped and turned to his older brother. This looks like a good spot. You need to lie down on your stomach so you don't cast a silhouette. The snipe won't come up if they can recognize you as being human. Mike lay down on his stomach and propped himself on his elbows. Kenny handed him the 2 horseshoes borrowed from Mrs. Sosie. As he left, he heard his older brother clanging them together and calling out, here, snipe, here, snipe. Kenny smiled to himself as he silently made his way back past James and Katie, both making their strange noises and calling for snipe. After he crossed the dirt road, he went inside their trailer and quietly got back into bed. This was his best prank ever.
That's cute.
Yeah. Which is exactly what my dad did to us.
That's amazing. Your dad did that.
Yeah.
I know brothers and sisters and friends did that, but
Yeah.
that's great.
That whole story is based again on a real family that I knew from church. That when the mom married her husband, she became an instant mom. The 4 kids
Oh, yeah.
are stepkids for. and they live in a part of our town. It's kind of out in the country, but it's all dirt poor. I mean, the roads are dirt. Most there aren't any houses. Most of the people that live out there live in mobile homes or
Mhm.
trailers. And the Bassett family, the real family, actually live in a small trailer that you would pull behind your car or pickup to go camping.
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's really small. And so, but across the street from their cabin, there was a burned down house. And in real life, they had James, the youngest kid, convinced that it was haunted.
Oh.
And every Sunday in church, the mom would tell us all the shenanigans the older kids did to James to get him to go over into, they were trying to scare him by going over to the haunted house. And every week it was a new story of what they were trying to get James, what they were doing to James to get him to go over there. And I said, I've got to write this up. And so I started writing these events, and it just turned into a little mystery.
Well, that's good you were writing it down. That's
Yeah,
great,
yeah, yeah.
keeping the record. So
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah.
Okay. That's actually, thank you, Jack. That was actually a really good reading.
Thank you.
It was, yeah.
It was either that or the, of course, later on in that chapter, they,
Ow.
yeah, Mike, the oldest boy, actually gets a bird in his sack that he thinks is a snipe, but it's an owl.
Aw.
They go back into the house, and he dumps it, and they wake up Kenny, the main character, says, we got one, and he dumps, and Kenny, James says, well, dump him out, let's see. So he dumps the sack out, and it's an owl with a dead mouse in its claw, you know. And about that time, mom comes in screaming like, what's going on in here? And she sees, how did that owl get in here? You know, and about that time, the owl revives. And then several things happen at once. The owl takes off for the open, what it thinks is the open window, but doesn't see the screen, hits the screen and is dazed and lands back on the carpet in front of the beds, drops the mouse on one of the kids' foot, who kicks it onto the girl, and she's jumping around, yelling and screaming because there's a mouse in her hair. And the youngest one, James, dives for the owl that's on the dazed on the carpet, and it slides across the hardwood floor onto the other one. And about that time, the owl revives and flies out the bedroom door. And all this time, mom's yelling, get that thing out of this house before it poops on something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Adventures. Then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And a common theme that I run through is that mom because they're always pulling shenanigans on each other, is that she's threatening to trade them in, take them down to the dog pound, trade them in for German Shepherds because they got to be easier to raise.
I remember being tempted like that. Definitely can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you have any other questions for Jack?
So you're going to use the same characters through all your books then, right?
No, when I wrote the ones based on Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, I used two kids that I knew their dad really well when they lived here in Farmington, where I live. And it was another deal where when he married his wife, he was an instant dad, you know. And when they were little, they were my movie buddies because I love the Pixar full-length cartoons. But it looks funny if I go to a kids show with no kids.
Right.
And nowadays, they're going to look at me like, you pervert, you know. What are you doing? So I would take the two boys and give mom and dad an afternoon off, you know, kid-free afternoon. And so they're the main characters. And
So
again,
the books aren't really a series then, they're more.
well, no,
just-
but I'm going to write another one with the Henderson brothers. And
Okay.
I'm going to
yeah.
call them the Henderson Brother Mysteries. Like
Yeah, well, there you go.
the Henderson Brother Mysteries.
And that'll be good.
Yeah.
Good, yeah.
And they also have a best friend. They're the ones that are from Houston. And so they have a best friend who's Navajo. And that way the readers, young readers, can learn a little bit about Navajo culture.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I just got a notification that we're running out of time. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So that's
Thank
it.
you. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
and like I
glad
said,
to hear about it. So,
And both these are coming out in February.
okay,
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Great.
Right.
Okay.
Good. All right.
All right,
Thank
sounds good.
you.
Yeah.
See y'all tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye, Jack.